Imagine being Kleya, Marki, and Luthen Rael and not understanding the full scope of what they have contributed in the formation of the rebellion in the Star Wars Andor series and beyond. Luthen will never know, but Kleya gets to go to Yavin 4 and see it firsthand. Although the rebellion has changed slightly, she can see what she has helped to build. For the beginning years of Luthen Rael's and Kleya Marki's silent fight against the Empire in the Star Wars Andor series, they never really got to see the bigger picture. Sure, they got to hear reports of the end results of their plots and schemes, but they didn't get to witness it firsthand, as they were on Coruscant most of the time working on the rebellion from their military antiquities shop. Okay, so yeah, they had more than just military antiquities in that shop, but yeah, it was all interesting. Anyways, hobnobbing with Coruscant's finest and operating in the shadows of the city planet. Of course, we can see it all. We have a third-person omniscient view of everything going on of importance. So for us, we watch the buildup of the Rebel Alliance, and we also know the end result. But the characters involved, such as Kleya Marki and Luthen Rael, they only hear stories. But to say that the rebellion has only changed slightly downplays the truth of it. It's now a rebellion that has left Luthen Rael and Kleya Marki behind. A rebellion they helped build, along with those like Saw Gerrera, Cassian Andor, Velsartha, and Mon Mothma. Hello there. Yes, you. I see you looking away from your screen. Look at it. See that subscribe button? Press it. You love Star Wars, and so do I. This is a place where we can love the franchise without any grifting. If I don't like a Star Wars project, I simply don't talk about it. I'm trying hard to hit 50,000 subscribers so I can be free to make more and better content for you all. By subscribing, it shows me what you like. By commenting, it shows me what you like and what you don't like. It's the only way for me to gauge what to make and what to leave on the cutting room floor. So, subscribe, like, and comment. Let's become so powerful that no one will be able to ignore us. Okay, let's get to it. The rebellion and how Kleya Marki and Luthen Rael helped build something that left them behind is just one of my topics for this Andor video. Unfortunately, I can't title the video How Kleya Marki and Luthen Rael Built a Rebellion That Left Them Behind in Karis Nemik's Manifesto being used as propaganda so people can read the title and not have to watch the video. That's too long, so I shortened it. More about that later. So my question is this. Were Kleya Marki and Luthen Rael left out of the larger scope of the rebellion on purpose, or did they intentionally not retreat to Yavin 4 with the rest of them? I'll get into my thoughts on that in a bit. In Andor Season 1, we see Luthen Rael and Kleya Marki building a rebellion, starting with small cells, aiding Saw Gerrera with intel and forming the Aldhani heist being their most notable contributions to the bigger picture. Luthen Rael also gains favor with Mon Mothma in order to help fund the rebellion. She doesn't agree with a lot of his tactics, but he helps her understand that the Aldhani heist is another way of investing at the moment. Her money is inaccessible, and he needs to be able to feed people. All parties are at terrible risk of being discovered as they are operating right under the nose of the Emperor and his sinister agents of evil on Coruscant. But in Season 2 of Andor, there is a change within the Star Wars galaxy. Luthen Rael and Kleya Marki are losing their footing within the rebellion. It's subtle at first, but at the end of the season, we see this shift in full swing. The rebellion has grown into a full-fledged military operation. A lot of the smaller cells have banded together and created their own ranks and hierarchy. But that hierarchy doesn't include Luthen Rael and Kleya Marki. They are left on the sidelines, especially now that Mon Mothma no longer needs their protection and influence. Wow, talk about her being ungrateful. Okay, no, I don't think she's ungrateful. Her needs have just been changed as she is now basically in hiding and an enemy of the state. Calm down. It's going to be okay. I promise. But let's talk about that for a minute. Mon Mothma gives a great speech in front of the Senate calling out Emperor Palpatine as a genocidal maniac and has to run away quickly. I've seen other posts where Star Wars fans have asked why she didn't stay at the safe house. Well, Unlike Kleya Marki, Cassian Andor, Bix Kalene, and Luthen Rael, or Luthen Rael, however you pronounce it, who have used the apartment, Mon Mothma is now known. Her face is plastered all over blue milk cartons all over Coruscant, and eventually the Empire finds a safe house anyway, so it was wise of her to leave Luthen, Kleya, and Coruscant behind. But she should definitely remember who got her out of there. But I slowly digress. The rebellion is now massive. It has a large army and its own fleet to back them up. Reports of this make their way to Luthen and Kleya. They know what's happening, but they aren't there to witness it. In fact, they aren't really welcome there anyway, at least that's the impression we're given. It was grown to the size we see in Rogue One and A New Hope by this point, but it is now ran by senators in exile, and Bail Organa, a senator not in exile. But why weren't Luthen Rael and Kleya Marki part of this structure? There are a great many things that have happened in Andor between Andor Season 1 and Andor Season 2. I'm sure it isn't that big of a mystery, though. My thoughts are that Luthen Rael and Kleya Marki are seen as agitators within the rebellion. With their strikes against the Empire, it makes them more difficult to tame, much like Saw Gerrera. And their ties to Saw Gerrera don't really help, do they? And this is fine for a smaller operation, but if the larger combined rebellion were to send multiple teams to do these type of attacks, the likelihood of even one member getting captured and revealing the location of Yavin 4 would be increased. This is one of the reasons they didn't want to sanction Cassian Andor to extract Luthen Rael and Kleya Marki before they learned Luthen had succumbed to his self-inflicted injuries, with the help of Kleya being strong enough to pull the plug. But there is still the question of why Kleya Marki and Luthen Rael stayed on Coruscant, when there wasn't much need for it anyway. Vel Sartha had joined the larger rebellion, as did Cassian Andor, and we are shown that these two were two of their major operators. Then there is Saw Gerrera. He was becoming unhinged by this point in Andor, and less likely to be controlled by Luthen Rael. Not that he was ever really controlled by him, only slightly manipulated. Remember the Anto Krieger thing? Luthen actually saved Saul and his team, but had to coerce him into backing out of the operation. The only reason for them to stay on Coruscant was to protect Mon Mothma and the cash flow she was providing, which by this time was likely only barely helping the larger rebellion as it grew beyond one person's means of funding. Still, every bit helps. Not to mention, if Mon Mothma was discovered, the entire rebellion would have been compromised. And that's a big reason Luthen Rael and Kleya Marki were at the wedding of Mon Mothma's daughter, Leda. So I would say it was more of a choice for them to not join Yavin 4 in Andor Season 2. But there was also bad blood, as the new bureaucratic leaders of the rebellion saw Luthen and Kleya as more terrorists than freedom fighters. Okay, so now let's talk about Karis Nemik's manifesto for a moment. And yeah, no, the whole remember this doesn't really get on my nerves. I was digging deep just to find something to criticize the show on, because I can't just sit here and fanboy over it constantly. Anyways, a good question has been raised as to how the manifesto ended up in the hands of the ISB, or Imperial Security Bureau, in Andor Season 2, when in Andor Season 1, Cassian Andor had the only copy of it. I think it's a legitimate question, but there is an answer if we look to our own history of warfare. The dropping of pamphlets or leaving messages publicly has been used since the dawn of warfare and continues to this day. Nemik's manifesto didn't have specific plans for targeted hits within the Empire that we saw, so it's possible the manifesto was distributed through public means as a way of getting messages across to both the populace and the Empire itself. This tactic has a threefold effect. The first is to incite fear within the enemy, or those within the enemy forces that may not be as supportive of their regime as others. The second has been to coerce surrender among enemy combatants. And the third is to turn the populace against the ruling class. We use pamphlet drops, accidental electronic communications, and even dead bodies to convey these messages. Yes, We have used dead bodies as propaganda. So it isn't out of the question that Nemik's manifesto could have been used as electronic communications to shake the morale of the Imperial forces, bring more citizens into the rebellion, and even try to gain sympathy within the Empire's own ranks. Can you imagine the impact the manifesto would have when hearing Karis Nemik, a young man barely able to shave, saying that totalitarianism will crack because it's natural, or that this type of government requires constant monitoring? I mean, look at Major Partagaz as he listens to it. Yes, he has more pressing issues, such as the preservation of self for the ISB failure, but he doesn't look real happy about the manifesto as well. Maybe I'll talk about that aspect in another video. Just remind me to do so, okay? Remember this, and yes, I said that on purpose pertaining to my last video and making fun of myself. I actually made that up because I can't sit here and simp and be all fanboy over Andor without having some kind of criticism. So forgive me for that. I'd imagine a good chunk of Imperial forces signed up for the service believing in the Empire's lie about peace. While yes, the Empire would have trained recruits on enemy propaganda tactics, they also didn't likely tell them that they were serving a fascist government. I mean, that isn't something you spread around to your troops, even though we know the Third Reich has a fascist regime. They didn't call themselves that. They called themselves National Socialists, shortened from the German, oh God, I'm going to butcher this, Nationalsozialistische Deutsche Arbeiterpartei, or National Socialist German Workers' Party. See where the word Nazi comes from? National. I'm sure I butchered the pronunciation though, so forgive me for that. But yes, it's possible the rebellion allowed the manifesto to be leaked into the general population and to the Empire itself. Don't think so? There are many instances in Star Wars Rebels where the rebellion used propaganda transmissions as well as the Empire, both of which hoping the other side would hear it. That's all I have to say about that. The last thing I will mention is, I mentioned in my last video that I may put spoilers in my thumbnails. That was actually a joke. I just didn't execute the joke well. It was intended to draw attention to those channels that do include spoilers in their thumbnails and titles. I've never done that and will not do it in the future. That's dirty. I let Star Wars fans decide if they want to find out more of what I'm talking about without revealing anything before they watch it. I think it's nasty to do it any other way. And that, my dear Pookies, is why my thumbnails and titles don't contain my entire video in them. Some Star Wars and YouTube know-it-alls may see it as clickbait. The owner of and operator of this channel, see it as protecting those who haven't watched the shows or movies. And I don't claim to know it all. I know a lot, but no one knows everything about Star Wars. If they did, they would be too busy reading novels and comics to be on YouTube searching for Star Wars information, or even making videos about it. I give my opinions and let you all decide if you like it. That's it. Then I let you decide as Star Wars fans if you want to subscribe to my channel and leave a thumbs up. Wait, go ahead and do that now. 50,000 subscribers is just around the corner, and I know we can get there with your help. Until the next time, may the Force be with you, unless you eat ketchup on your eggs. In that case, you're nasty.